This is Jake with the Tattoo Improvement Network. Be sure to join us January 22nd through 24th in Austin, Texas for the Star of Texas Tattoo Art Revival. www.golivefast.com for all the info that you need.
Well, imagine when you're wearing headphones, how loud that's going to be.
Damn right. Oh, it won't be, will it? I won't hear it?
I think you will.
You just hear
How does
yourself.
that work? We hear everything.
I don't know. Oh, God.
Yeah, and you hear yourself and you hear when
I can
you
already hear him.
move
I got to
in,
hear him
move
again.
out. I think it's more important. I think it's to hear you.
And we're back!
Hey, welcome to the Fireside,
Damn it,
the official podcast of the Tattoo Improvement Network. Are you going?
Yeah, we're going.
Oh, am I too loud? Oh, sorry.
So loud.
Welcome to Fireside. Did I already say that part? The official podcast
that's
of
true.
the Tattoo Improvement Network.
And thank you for choosing us over all the other ones.
All the other podcasts in the world, especially the tattoo podcast. All the tattoo podcasts.
All of them. I really appreciate you just picking us
Just
right
picking
there.
us and
Number
not listening
one.
to any of them.
None.
That's not true. We met some nice podcasters.
Yeah, there's super.
Actually, got to sit down with Ben Licata, or in passing, who does the Tattoo Now TV, and he seemed like a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Offered me some technical advice.
You can always use advice.
He knows more about microphones and stuff than I do, which was, that's not hard to
And
know.
apparently
more
we
about.
need to be wearing headphones.
Hey, first off, we need headphones. He didn't tell us that, but everyone else does.
I'm going to get some nice ones, though.
Yeah, that's cool. You should get some cool beats, but some crazy color.
I mean, what's
could wear
crazy
completely.
color? They only make them in certain colors. So.
Well, they're all bright.
I'm going
Aren't
to
they?
spray paint mine gold.
I bet they make some gold ones. Surely they make gold beats. No? Yeah. Let's go on and order a couple of those. Just
Yeah.
as soon
Or
as you find
Beats,
them.
if you're just listening, by the way.
Right. So
love
I
those
did,
headphones.
I did this
Beats.
painting.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Dre.
Dr. Dre. So
Love
I
your,
did this
love your
painting
movie.
at a painting class, a painting workshop of a guy, and he was wearing Beats headphones, and I painted him in, and I painted a little bee in, and Beats by Dre Instagram liked the photo.
That's right.
What are the chances that they would run across that?
That's modern art. That's modern art right there.
Yeah, you're right.
Thanks for bringing it to the light too. By the way,
No problem. So before we get started, go to tattooimprovement.com and sign up for our newsletter. You can keep up with where we are in the world.
go to
And,
beats.com and
Go to beats.com.
sign up for
and pledge $10 towards our gold Beats headphones. Do they have them? What are they asking for gold? $300 a pair.
That's not
That's a
bad. I mean,
steal. That is a steal.
you guys get on that.
Yeah, $10 if all of our listeners pledge $10
If all
a piece.
3 of them.
3 to 5 of them.
Rose gold as well, too.
Rose gold. What's that? Just kind of a pinkish gold.
It's like
Oh,
champagne
yeah, it's like
almost or something.
champagne.
Yeah,
It is
beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah. So go to tattooimprovement.com or beatsbydre.com and sign up for the mailing list for either of those. Also, go to Tattoo Improvement on Instagram and give us a follow. It's still Fireside Tats on Facebook, but we're in the process. We really are trying to kind of transition to Tattoo Improvement Network. You don't think?
It doesn't
You don't
matter.
give a shit.
I
What's the
like
matter?
you already got a banner.
We already
and
have a banner.
everything.
That's true. That is true. I mean,
Besides, I like it. I think it's got that kind of old school yet. Yeah, come on down to the Fireside.
the Fireside.
Let's talk about something.
We've talked about
Home
just being
improvement
the
sounds like you're
fires-
going in and it's like one big open warehouse.
Home improvement?
Or
tattoo
tattoo
improvement.
improvement. You're like you're picking
Well-
stuff off the shelf and you're like, I think I need this.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I don't think that the podcast should not be Fireside. I just just trying to transition all of our
No, I
online
think
stuff to
that's
tattoo
perfect.
improvement. I think it's the Fireside podcast, no matter what, though. Anyways, do all that. Go to and follow them. Keep up with us. Follow us around. Meet up with us at different events in your hometown.
Definitely have a lot planned.
We have a lot planned coming up in the next for the spring. A lot going on. So this is old school Fireside right here.
That's
what
crazy.
we're doing today. No guest.
I love it.
Just my life partner and myself
Yeah, talking questions.
answering questions.
Just
and we
talking.
do have a question today that we're going to answer, which I really miss answering questions.
I think it's a good one too. I mean, we may have skirted over it or talked about it.
Yeah, it's
in
probably
one way or
the
another, but-
answers that we'll give we have given to other questions before. But let's go on and throw it out there. And I apologize, I'm not prepared, and I forget who sent me this question. But
It's a good question. Well, I'm sure we'll put your name right
We'll
here.
put your name probably in this area.
Right.
It's the it's a question that that a lot of people, or an issue a lot of people have, I think, or everyone that tattoos has come across, and that is dealing with hairy ass people and designing tattoos to that look good on them when they're healed.
Right. And then often finding that when you're talking to them, often we'll see a person and we'll be mapping something out. And sometimes, when we're in the middle of the shop or maybe we're in our own studio, we don't make them just strip down to show every little thing. But we'll ask them, oh, do you have, other tattoos? Do you have anything that we're covering up? So especially in the winter, they may not, it may be a little cooler or they may be, whatever. So we go, okay, we can get a good idea of the space and stuff.
Without actually seeing their skin.
Exactly. But then you get in there and you're like, whoa.
Yeah, you're a hairy bastard.
And you didn't shear it. Mm-hmm. Often, even I'm new to a beard. This is, the last couple of years or whatever.
2 years.
And so having to trim and whatever, but I've met people that it's like just with a little trimming and shearing, it would probably behoove them before they came in for a tattoo. But often I tell people, look, don't shave yourself because for every tattoo I've done, I've shaved that person beforehand. So I do prefer shaving a person before, but it gets into that where often you're like, oh my God, they do have a lot of hair.
There's a lot of hair.
And how does that work into your design all of a sudden?
Right.
And had you thought about it, would you have changed your design?
Yeah.
And be like, oh my God, well, especially with the arm and then all of a sudden this like bush patch or something
right
or like
on the back
that
of it.
man shoulder
like
thing.
the nape of the neck that just spreads out.
Exactly. Or like nape of the neck that has like tendrils, and then you're often having to shave into that area anyway, but it has to grow back. So I think the question was
how to design, or is there a way to allow for really hairy people within the design? Now, I think you brought up a point.
There's nothing wrong with hairy people, by the way.
No,
we're not talking about hairy people.
You can't do anything about it.
It's there, right?
But you just brought up a point that I would not have thought of, and that is, it's probably a good idea to see the space because some people are kind of deceptively hairy.
And that's what I mean. It's often and that's why I bring it up because it's like often when our apprentices, they ask questions or something, it's like, oh, it's definitely you don't think of something to tell them until it's spot on. Oh, by the way, this happens all the freaking time. Mm-hmm. If you didn't look at that skin and you're all of a sudden are surprised by weird things like scars or abrasions, tattoos they forgot about. I don't even know how that happens. Like, oh yeah, I hand poked that D back in the day, but it's it's 4x4.
It sits right in the brightest highlight.
Forgot about that. It's your own fault. And so hair is in that group too. And so if you do have to design it for someone that does not sculpt, let's say, I think it definitely is a worthwhile thing to put into your design. You have to remember where your design goes, where the heavy items are, if they do not help you out on that end, or if the design itself is just so nice and if it takes up enough space, whether to tell them it's like for the rest of your life, you're probably going to want to shave that, or themselves wanting to do that. And then we often work on other people in the other trades, anestheticians and stuff that wax and stuff. And so I've met several people that either shave or wax because of their tattoos.
I have met people that do keep themselves kind of trimmed. I've been just as frustrated as we'll get into that. You made me lose my train of thought. I have met people that you see a design come back and it's all the hair's all grown back in. And you go, it looks like crap. Now and then you have to buzz it down, and then you both go, oh wow, that tattoo really looks good. I forget whenever it's so hairy.
Right.
So let's put ourselves in that position. You see someone. Let's say you did have the foresight to go on and look at the space, and there's some they're a pretty hairy person, maybe a chest panel, or maybe they just have hairy forearms and it thins out as it goes up your arm, which happens a lot. A lot of people have really hairy forearms, and it gets thinner as they go up. So if you were designing, let's say, a sleeve to something, to an area that was some parts of it really hairy, some parts of it maybe not as hairy, would you... What
take
would
that
you do?
into account?
Yeah. What would you do in your design to allow for it?
Oh, that's the point. It's like I think you're going to meet people that naturally are dark to light in certain places, and I think you can move your design to kind of appropriate for that to make it so that often I'd take them like meat and potatoes. So you're going to have these obvious image in some of the nicer places, and obviously on some places of the body often hair doesn't grow nearly as heavy, and so
Like the
maybe
inner
work
arm as opposed to
inner
the outer
arm
arm.
to the outer arm. And so often where the places actually have movement places, we often would work those with naturally, say, elements like fire, water, wind to tie these things together. So often we don't put just a hard image on a very bendy place. Bendy.
Right.
But I think that goes in the same light. You're going to find places that are natural points of attraction for the eye. And so if it's dark in one point, I use an arm as a representation,
Yeah, I think
but
that's a pretty
I think if it's dark in one point and light in another, you should take that into account.
So maybe
if
you would reverse that. Like if
Right.
you had a lot of detail and then some areas of negative, maybe you would allow for those things. Use the hairy area as the
elemental places as
Elemental
the
place.
ties and stuff,
Gotcha.
and try to move the image out of those places if it allows in that. If it allows for that. If it's just, of course, very dark, very heavy, and obviously and that's the way we're talking about the darkness of the hair. Often people have darker hair or lighter hair, and it really responds differently for people.
Sometimes I think lighter hair is more distracting.
And this is what I think about that is that often when you see a monofilament line or other stuff and it's putting light through it, you see that it catches the light, and so that light becomes almost a blur to the eye. You often can't see through that, and light hairs are just like that. They actually are reflecting more light, so you can't see through it. While often darker hair is just dense and it doesn't allow the image to pull
and
through.
is absorbing light maybe a little more, or is that?
Well, I think sometimes, like I said, if it's so dark that it mats, it's again your eye sees dark before
dark,
lights, and
right.
so it just is stopping your eye to seeing through it, while light itself is catching it and making it, like say, glow on top of it, where normally your skin would push it. So it's two different, I think, effects for hair growing and on some people. Often
so can
you don't
allow for that? If let's say you're dealing with a hairy person and a dark hair or light hair.
I think darker is harder, but usually it's in really specific places. Often we were talking about there are places on you that once that hair follicle is gone, you can't really tattoo very well in some of those places. So that's why I think in the hand you see some pores that are easier, but you often don't see somebody's hand that's super hairy. So or their outer arm, it may be the inner arm that you can get away with pulling the design.
Yeah.
I think in the end, sometimes you have to ignore that and just say, hey, trim it down if you really like this image, and if it's worthwhile, if it's if you can move it and it behooves you to do it, I think it's a great idea.
That depends on the design being a pretty decent size.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other factors that come into that.
And we haven't even gotten into that. It's stylistically, how would you move your design, or how would you prep your design so that even if that person was always going to be hairy, could you make a dense enough image to pull through, to push through?
Yeah.
I think that's I would try to allow for it first. Try to make an idea. Like we work on scarring and, like I said, all kinds of stuff.
You would
to
almost
cover
map it into your
absolutely.
space.
If they're specifically very heavy, hairy. Heavy,
you would treat it like a scar or anything else.
I'm going
to allow for this area that's overly hairy.
But if especially they normally keep it that way. So if they come in and all of a sudden you see this huge patch, you're like, whoa.
I have that. I'm hairy around the back of my arms right here. It's
Well,
crazy.
that's what I mean. And then what do? You're like, well, if it's in a small little place, it probably you just ignore it. If it's especially not integral to the outer image that someone normally sees as a focal image. Now, if it's very distracting, that's the other stuff. I mean, you meet people trying to have hairy nevises or mole, other things like that. Yeah. And we've talked about that, like how you can't really tattoo over some things. Yeah. But hair, I don't think you should be, I guess worried about too much. But again, it's working it.
Being able to get a tattoo in the skin,
right.
You can do it.
It'll work fine. It's one of those things that you should absolutely, though, if they do not normally sculpt, you should probably take that into account and try to move your image out of those areas, or Of course, we're getting to be making them bolder.
Yeah, bolder, more simplistic. I almost think of it the same way. I almost want to answer this question the same way that we answered the tattooing on dark skin question.
Well, yeah,
you
that's a
know,
good way.
it's the same kind of idea in that if you can, you know, a lot of people that are dark complected are really dark on their outer arm and they get lighter towards their palms and inner arms. And if you can design something where your shapes are most simplistic and high contrast, you would do that in the darker
I think
areas.
high contrast is your key to because you don't have to go simple, but bold and high contrast are your key. I think in that situation, and the same with, like I said, with really dark, hairy places. I think that's probably some of the key to that. Some of the lighter ones, I think you could still work. I think those people, if I had I've known people to literally just shear their arm when they had very red, almost red haired, very dense, and they had a lot of tattoos, and it was just easier for them. And so if you get into that where they have really nice tattoos, after a while, what they'll do is they'll just learn some practices to keep it down. If you do it every day, it doesn't grow very fast. It doesn't grow very, it doesn't make it heavier or hairier. It doesn't. Those are old, I say old wives' tales, but that's really, it's a myth. Especially if you have someone that you could does it for you, so that you don't feel, if you like to be pampered. I don't know. Some people, the new Metro, whatever.
You
metasexuals.
So you mentioned that you don't think you necessarily have to simplify designs in really hairy areas, but are you, like, if you're thinking of a composition, we always talk about hierarchy and things like that. You're going to do your best to put the most important parts of that design in the less hairy areas, or are you willing to dive in with a lot of detail in a hairy area?
Well,
if it's high contrast,
and that's what I'm trying to think. It's like it would be a very. I guess it would be very spot based. So if someone had a huge clump of hair, I'm just for instance, I would probably work some darker elements. Say if we're talking about koi, maybe the rocks go there instead of the koi there. Right. Maybe it's going up and it uses all the space that place doesn't normally use, and it's easy to move your design. Like we say meat. I say meat and potatoes a lot. Yeah. It's very easy to shuffle those around. If it's just to often move where the darks and lights are, and remember that's really what it is part of the composition. Those will be darker. They will naturally attract your eye into them sometimes, and you're really wanting to move a person's eye in and out of those areas anyway. And so if you're really heavy in a place that's already going to be very heavy with hair, well, often your eye sinks to that, and it pulls away from the image anyway. And so if you can adapt it just to move your eye like you would a cover up is what I was kind of imagining. And that's how I feel like it. When we go back to that, if you don't know it's there, it's your own damn fault. Right. And you might as well feel like that. Be like, God damn, why did I not think of that? It's like, now I've got, the head of this koi he's going to have a fro on the top of his head, which is fine. But if he does not, if that customer is like, all of a sudden, I've got a portrait of my mom
with a beard,
and it's Santa Claus, and 3 weeks later, well, you should probably talk to the client about that. It's not.
Well, let's explore that idea a little bit. People want what they want. They might want a portrait. They might be way too hairy for a portrait. Would you go out of your way to push someone to get a portrait on their inner arm instead of their outer
or
arm,
their chest,
or their chest,
that may not. Like you said, some places are very sectional. Some places are not as hairy as others. So maybe it's finding an appropriate place, especially for someone that does not want to go through that effort of sculpting it or sanding it or whatever, shaving it or waxing it or whatever. And that's a problem. Like, you can suggest that. You can say that you're probably going to have some problems when this hair grows back if it's really dense in this one area. And then especially if you think you have to move your drawing appropriately and someone's fighting you on it, you have to explain why you're doing it. That's often when a drawing, it's like, well, why is this? Or they'll want to change it to a certain way, and you have to defend it. And if you don't know how to defend your work, that's one problem. But defending it on the case of you're a hairy bastard and nobody's going to see this fucking tattoo, well, you just just got to say that, you know.
Yeah, that's
and
legitimate.
they should be not in all those words, but they should be fine with that. You like because if you're not sculpting it now, you probably never will. If your wife's not doing it, your girlfriend's not doing it, if your friend's not doing it, your significant other, that may get them into it, though. I do know people that have done that, and that's the thing. It's like they start asking. It's like, well, I have this other client. Flip. Here's a card from either High Gorgeous or
whatever. They just get trimmed every time they get their hair done. They
and
buzz their arm.
They're very quick. Ladies are fun. I mean, usually it's a woman doing it. There are guys, of course, that do it too. But I'm saying, as far as guys being very hairy, I think that's always an option. You're just like, hey, there's places that'll help you out with that in the long run.
Yeah, and probably if you presented it like that, like the design that you want has a lot of subtlety. It has a lot of small detail, and it's just not going to read well here. So you have two options. You can either commit to maintaining this area and keeping it groomed all the time, or we can move this someplace else and let them make that call. But the biggest thing being to address it. Don't.
Well, again, if you didn't see it and all of a sudden it's a problem, it's your own fault. If they were just uncomfortable in showing you, well, then something else is. But you should definitely approach it. Not like to cover up, but you should be aware of it. Be aware when that image comes back and you're like, wow, all of a sudden my image is going flat, or I can't see it, or I put all the juicy bits in these places that are always getting really, really dark. I mean, that again is your responsibility. And to either one, explain it to them, or two, have them start to sculpt it a little bit for you, because a cheap brawn just shear is very cheap, very easy to get. I mean,
$20 at Walgreens or something.
Yeah, exactly. I can't remember that nice brand of ones now that are like titanium and you get your good stainless razor. Shear, it'll last forever, and that at least will get it down enough. I've always been, I don't have a whole lot. You're very fine.
I just have blonde hair. I have a decent amount of hair, but it's all blonde, and it is distracting to tattoos. Whenever when I buzz it, my tattoos all look a lot nicer. But I don't I don't tend to do it a lot. But
and that's a key. Sometimes it's just people come in and be like, oh, I think it looks dull. And the second you shave it, they're like, wow, it looks great. But like, yep. See you later.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. And just from one sitting to the next, not even like you're looking at a finished tattoo, but like you lined it and shaded it and you're coming back to color and you shave it and they go, God, I forgot how black that was. I thought when it healed, it just got dull.
Right.
Like, no, when it healed, your hair grew back.
Yeah. So, I mean, often you're going to find places that are easy, but some people are a little hairy on their legs. Some people naturally will shave because they got into boating or biking or skiing or wrestling or other stuff, and they'll keep it that way.
I think you're right that bringing it up to the person and letting them know that it is a potential issue, and that you either need to allow for it in the design, meaning what we were talking about earlier with high contrast, using some type of something lower in the hierarchy in that area if possible, filler or
I think it's often when maybe the traditional style and stuff like that really brings
Japanese
kind of brands,
something like that. That's
very bold. And again, moves your eye in and out of those places like that you really want it to.
Well, I mean, if nothing else, I think just bringing it to tattooers' attention that they should look at the area. That's something that when someone says, I don't have a tattoo there, I want it on my shoulder blade, and you go like, okay, I mean, I can map your shoulder blade through your clothes.
Right.
Well, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe maybe there's, as a matter of fact, I just did a huge, I started a big back piece that will be on Tattoo Technique soon of a tree. And the guy had a pretty decent scar, like a pop mark kind of big scar right where I had a pretty main branch that affected the branch. It like kind of clipped the branch.
Right.
And I didn't look at his back. It was his whole back, and I just thought, man, he said I have nothing on it, and I'm feeling his whole back anyway, so I didn't think it was that important. But if I had looked at it,
I had the same thing happen, and I think I even talked about it for half a second. But I was doing a tree on a guy's back that had owls in it, and he had a divot in the middle of his back, and his mom told him that his butt crack started at the middle of his back, which I thought was a great line. But that's how it was. There was so much, the musculature and the indention for his spine was such that I should have seen it, but I didn't. I did make him take his shirt off because, again, it was just large piece. He's there. He's tall. He doesn't have anything on his back. So, of course, the second I had to adjust my drawing. I had to redraw stuff in and hand draw stuff.
It fell into the
right because it fell because of where it went. You know, I didn't realize how much. I mean, that's an extra 10 or 15 minutes. It's not a lot, but I wish I'd have seen it, or I would have thought about it definitely.
Yeah, and you don't think about it a lot at the time, but when you're cramming 2 or 3 consultations in between appointments or something like that, and someone wants something fairly straightforward, and you can save 5 minutes because your appointment's already on the couch waiting for you. Sometimes you do, and
especially when it gets cold, you don't want people to strip down because they don't have to.
I think sometimes it's easy to overlook that kind of stuff, but definitely in the case of dealing with hair, it's nice to know that it's there on the front end.
Exactly, and then because we have to use disposable razors, we can't really use shears. I often tell people it's like, we have no thing to like take it down. We have to go through a couple of disposable razors, and I say they're cheaper. They're not. Cheap. I mean, they're not. They're fairly cheap, but it's because they're disposable, and so often it just behooves you if you're going to get a lot of work and you are a hairy person. I won't say hairy bastard. I almost said it. Just get you a set of shears. Get him. Go ahead and just knock that down for the artist. He will have no problem with that. Don't shave yourself. Don't use an actual razor. Often you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're doing it at odd angles.
You'll end up with a razor burn that we have to deal with, and any other. And
especially some people want to do it the day or two before, and that's the real problem. You come in with all bumpy skin.
I tell people they almost get offended whenever I break out a razor and they're like, "Oh, I already shaved." It's like, this is part of my cleaning process. I do it. I don't care if you shaved 30 seconds before you walked in, if you did it in the car. It's just part of what I do. I wipe and I pull a razor over because I don't know. I feel like I'm removing dead skin cells or any number of other things that just make it a clean, fresh surface for me to work on.
You've been tattooing for so long. You've shaved everybody before everyone. You've shaved.
Part of my process.
If you told someone that you've shaved 20,000 hours of shaving, they wouldn't believe you. But it's like,
who knows? It's been a lot of shaving.
Not that much, but
still a lot of shaving.
I've shaved more people than probably a goddamn barber. Not completely, because of course you barbers, thank you guys, but guarantee you, just for shaving body parts, most barbers only shave one part of the body. We shave all parts of the fucking body.
And giant parts.
Huge, giant, the pimply parts too. So you just, that's
parts.
what I'm saying, man. Just get used to it. And you have to, that could be a whole other show, just like how you shave people. But
I was gonna bring that up for really tattooers, younger tattooers that are shaving really coarse hair. Do you have any tips on how to keep them from just butchering people
I think that's something you'd actually have to see. I think the first thing is that I use we use Dr. Bronner soap. We use sometimes the peppermint or the hemp or the just normal, the original. I like to have it soapy, sudsy. I like to see a little bit of foam on there, and then I mostly have an underhand technique that works up and tries to get almost like I'm mowing a lawn, and I go up the longest strokes that I can. And usually it depends on the place, of course. So, but I like to have it good and frothy, and then making sure that I almost like I'm saying,
you're going against the grain.
Usually, I go up against the grain. I don't go down a person's leg. It's quicker. It takes most of it off. And you sometimes going down, it will skip. It will go quick. You're gonna miss things with a cheap razor. So I almost always depending on the place, though. Yeah, straight up.
And
I go a very solid stroke, and not like I'm
soap
hacking it or anything like that. I have a pretty good pretty good technique.
We should do a tattoo technique on shaving,
and that's what I'm saying. It's like when people look down and see how much hair comes off too, that's the crazy thing. They're like, oh my god, and they're like, well, I'm not very hairy, but then they see this clump, and you're like,
yeah. You guys should all send us videos of your shaving techniques, and we'll compare. We'll do a little series.
Depending on what it is, I usually have an underhand technique on most of mine. There are a couple places where, of course, you have to do a little contouring and stuff like that. But
I finish that way. I actually start with the grain, and I pull and I press back up to clean the hair out. So I'm making shorter, choppier strokes, but I'm pulling the hair out.
shorter,
I'm cleaning,
choppier strokes doesn't sound good.
I'm cleaning the this hand motion, short, choppy. But what I like is that I don't have to stop and clean the razor, because every time I'm pressing back against the skin and moving backwards, I'm cleaning all the hair out. So it's a fresh pull each time.
I leave it like
the hair.
like right at the end, and then whatever
I think we
comes
just
with
stumbled
me is
onto
fine.
a great tattoo technique.
And then often at the top, I will sculpt it so like some people, if I shave their this is what you forget about is like you'll shave their arm and then you'll leave like the hair on their hand, and so
wants
they'll
you to
just look
shave.
like a gorilla for.
People ask me
Like,
pretty
what
often,
the
like,
hell?
please shave.
Because
You
it looks
asked to
so unnatural.
You shaved your own hand?
Exactly. So now, I just go ahead and shave that. I say, do you want me to go ahead? Because once they see it, they're like, oh my, there are certain places where like, just go ahead and do a little extra just to help them out.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look ridiculous for
I
the
try
next
not
day
to
or
leave
two.
patches. I try to if it's close to an edge, I try to just clean it the rest of the way up. It can all come back together.
And often, once I've got the size laid out, I'll put that up, make a couple marks so I know how much how much I really need to shave. But,
Yeah.
don't shave your name into somebody or something.
Well, I don't know how long we've talked about hair now, but what else can we say about shaving?
I
and
think
about
first,
preparing?
make sure you get a nice clean razor. 2, make sure it's a good soapy water.
Yep.
3, have a technique. If you haven't learned a technique, watch a couple people.
Yeah,
For
make one up,
Christ's
see
sake.
if it works. Change it up. Everybody
No,
probably has different
don't
ones.
make one up. Often, I think
we both made
smooth
ours up, I
strokes,
think.
but you the choppy. I think maybe you've got yours to whatever. But
Yeah, they both work, I guess. I don't know.
you're gonna cut hair off of one. Just have it so that it doesn't cause razor bumps or
Yeah.
whatever.
Definitely
We'd like
getting.
to thank the good people at Modelo too.
Yeah, thanks to
It's,
Modelo.
They're Spanish for
They
beer. or
always
something.
take care of us here, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Hand delivered by the truckload.
By the trunk.
Just to run back through though, definitely almost treating it like dealing with darker skin or
That's a
dealing
good way of
with
thinking.
scar. If it's patchy hair, dealing with scars, but high contrast, bolder designs.
I think that's the one thing we didn't get into is like the design part of it. I think that's your best bet though. Work big, don't micromanage, don't put the details and textures should like I said, move the design through, and the darks to light should reinforce that. Definitely, if you think of it more as a cover up that you're moving the eye, I think you'll get a lot more out of it.
Yeah. And you always the beauty of tattooing today is that you almost always get to see your clients again at some point. They're always back around, it seems like. So if you feel like if you feel unsure about it, go bold. Stay fairly simplistic. Maybe you can always look at it healed and pull some more detail into it if you think you need to.
That is a great point. You can always go back and really detail stuff once they've either one gotten to the idea of sculpting it for you, or two, you see where those dappled colors maybe help, or where you can move it a little bit more, where you can make some really high key pressure points.
Where can
and
I
stuff.
Punch my darks a little more to push that out, or is it
like so keeping in touch with them, especially about that, because often, we haven't talked about some of our friends whose hair changes colors depending on how much you've been outside. So you may have darker skin that gets a lot of sun. You get in the pool, you get color, chlorine and stuff. It starts to bleach. It will change. It will tone. So try to think of the overall big picture instead of like micromanage the small little places, and I think it'll work out better for you.
right? And send us your shaving videos.
Oh, that's
for tattoos.
For tattoos, for Christ's sake.
maybe
thanks. No, just tattoos.
Okay,
Don't
just
get
tattoos.
fucking
Whatever.
Crazy. People
Let's not
shaving
get-
their asses or
That'd
something.
be some crazy.
I don't
videos.
want your ass shaving fucking videos. Thanks.
Yeah, just if we.
But
we
if
don't-
there is some product that you use that you really like, because like I said, we keep instead of green soap, we use Dr. Bronner's, a tinctured soft soap. So if there's something that you really like and there's something that you
I'm sure
prefer,
some
I'd love to hear.
tattoo company is making a specialty shaving cream for tattoos.
Is there one that
I don't
keeps
know.
that reduces
It seems like there's-
breakouts or
There might very
pimples,
well
or
be.
especially we've talked about say African American skin or darker skin. different things that can happen, or razor bump and things. That's a whole other. And when you just mentioned like all of a sudden seeing like probably what was like scarring or pitting from pimples or acne from teens, that's something you should really have to address. But of course, that's another show.
Yeah, and if you take nothing else from this, it definitely looking at the actual skin and not just assuming when people say there's no hair on my chest.
Yeah, don't
I'm
assume
sorry, not just, there's no
because you
tattoos on
make
my
an
chest.
ass of you and me.
That's right.
That's freaking
we
ridiculous.
just made that up.
I think I've heard it somewhere.
Yeah, no, that was
I
us.
think it was Nietzsche.
No, I think that was Fireside. We just did it
Confucius.
just now. Like send us your videos.
We want two thumbs
up on our. What do you thumbs up on these days?
I don't know. Just
like
us.
Facebook.
Just
Facebook,
like us, and if you've got some Pinterest shave videos, just go ahead and send
You want to
those.
shoot us your Pinterest videos? Do they do videos on Pinterest?
Oh sure, yeah.
I don't know.
Get you Vine it.
You could Vine it. That's a video thing
Thanks,
for sure.
man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know.
Oh man, I've been sucked into.
You could Periscope it.
You can Periscope it.
Jesus Christ.
I've been sucked into Vimeo lately. There's a lot of cool
Vimeo.
videos on Vimeo, and it's like YouTube for artsy people.
Oh, we didn't talk about fucking God damn it, Belichick and Brady going down
they went
finally.
down.
Those son of a bitches. The
They
devil
did.
finally
To
fell
the backup quarterback.
To the backup quarterback. Could you and hey, there you go. The two people that came from behind and broke his sorry ass in overtime, and was
Beautiful.
two people. And God damn
thought-
it,
I
if
thought
Peyton
about you when
Manning
that game was
and
over.
the backup fucking quarterback. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
did. I knew you were. I knew
was
you were
like,
dancing
the
about that.
Exactly. It's like, that just goes to show you. I mean, the devil may win every once in a while, but he can't win all the time.
Yeah.
And he
Right.
won't have a perfect record.
He won't have a perfect
Fuck
record.
No, only Dolphins can
Really.
have perfect records.
And while we're on the topic of sports, Kobe Bryant announced his retirement today, and I just want to pay homage to Kobe. He's one of my
20
favorite
plus
basketball
fucking
players.
years. I mean, he was playing, I think we were in almost high school.
We're the
close.
same. Kobe and I are
Fucking
about the same age.
Yeah. And what
maybe
happened?
I don't
You
know.
look at this. You
It
could have
didn't
been.
work
I
out
can't
for
believe
me.
you were playing for.
It
It's
didn't
like I
work
thought,
out for me.
you
I
could play
never
for the
made it
Tar
to the-
Heels
I
and
was
got it
never a
in. So
Laker.
like played for.
was never a Tar Heel.
No.
Neither was Kobe.
Yeah.
But I am gonna miss Kobe.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite players.
And
ever.
he's going. I mean, he's finally. He realizes that his body's telling him something. And
I thought
it's
he
like,
put
it's
it
a
really well.
horror.
He said something like, my heart can take the whatever, my mind can take the grind, but my body says it's time to quit. I'm like, oh, well, I get it. That sucks.
Right. And they have paid him. They've done everything he asked. They're sending him out like a star. They've been super classy about it.
Yep.
And this last year will be fucking awesome.
Yeah, it will. I hope they win some games.
Well, I mean,
Well, not too many. Not more than the Grizzlies.
exact. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Go
Go Grizz. We're getting back on track. We beat the 0-16
Go
Sixers
Grizz.
last
And then,
night.
of course, we're losing our goddamn coach in football, which is
Yeah.
like, you get too good. It's like, oh, you might as well just be selling your ass here. It's Memphis. Come here to sell your ass to another fucking
quarterback
city.
and coach. Yeah, we
Fuck
should
'em.
do.
I mean, I say fuck.
after
Thank
Fireside
you,
podcast. That's just all
Fuente, for
sports.
your,
Yeah, all
but,
Memphis sports.
oh my God.
Yeah, goodbye to Justin Fuente. I hate
Yeah,
that too.
thanks.
Kobe and Justin gone.
We'll
Thank
remember
you.
you.
Guys. Yeah. Hey, sign up for our mailing list for real newsletter.
exactly.
Keep up with us.
It's close to Christmas, so if you
Get your
just want to send
Fireside
us
gift certificates.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying. Or your Christmas
if you just wanna
goodies.
send
That's what
us
I was
gifts,
gonna
that'd be even
say.
better.
It's totally.
Yeah. You can gift your favorite tattoo artist a full season of Fireside
Yeah.
for free. For free. Can't beat that. That's
all you
right.
got to do is send it to him and see like, what the hell are these guys doing? LOL.
You guys have a good night.
Thanks, you guys.
That's the first time we've used LOL.
Hey, that's what I threw. I'm like, gotta.